Again, this is a song that is not available on Spotify, and I think I'm actually going to make a YouTube playlist for videos, and this is number 14.
On April the 12th, 1791, just 10 days after Mirabeau's death launched the matter of pantheonization, the National Assembly had the case of Descartes put before it. The original petition was brought forth by a descendant of Descartes' elder brother, Pierre, but it was taken up by Condorcet, one of the leaders of the Revolution, and, along with Voltaire, one of the men whose work most fully embodied the spirit of the Enlightenment. The several hundred men ranged in a circle of tiered benches around him in the central government chamber all knew of his wide-ranging energies. Condorcet had for years been active in working to bring a scientific perspective to bear in politics, economics, and education, to reform all of society around the principle of reason. As a mathematician, he identified what became known as Condorcet's paradox, a mathematical discrepancy in majority rule voting. Politically, he was an unusually early proponent of total equality, who argued in favor of granting women and minorities full rights. Condorcet identified the source of the great change that he and his contemporaries were living through. In the century before, he wrote elsewhere, Europe had been in the shameful slumber into which superstition had plunged her. It was Descartes who brought philosophy back to reason, for he had understood that it must be derived entirely from those primary and evident truths which we can discover by observing the operation of the human mind. Now Condorcet put before his fellow revolutionaries the case of one of their countrymen, who had been more fundamental even than Voltaire in leading to the extraordinary events in which they themselves were now participants. Descartes, who was forced from France by superstition, died on foreign soil, he began theatrically. His friends, his disciples, wanted at least that he have a tomb on his own soil. His body, transported through their cares, was deposited in the old church of Sainte Geneviève. They had prepared a public elegy, but superstition forbade praise to a philosopher. Pride did not allow honor to fall to an individual who was merely a great man. But this long wait can perhaps be repaired. By breaking the bars restraining the human spirit, he prepared the eternal destruction of political constraint, and deserves to be honored in the name of a free nation. Condorcet made a persuasive case. The Assembly agreed to send the petition to the Committee of the Constitution. But events on the ground threatened to overtake the politicians. While the committee was considering moving Descartes' bones from the old Sainte Geneviève across the plaza to the new Sainte Geneviève, that is, the Pantheon, Lenoir got the news from the abbot of the old church that it was in the process of being ransacked. He was appealed to rescue its precious objects. This was a particularly chaotic stretch of months in the lifespan of the French Revolution. Fears and expectations that the revolution would spread beyond the country's borders led to the outbreak of war with Austria in April 1792. In August, radicals took over the Paris Commune and pushed the national body to revoke the king's powers once and for all and usher in a true republic. De-Christianization reached a climax in September when crowds, convinced that Catholic priests were undermining the revolutionary effort, stormed Paris prisons, priests who had continued to say Mass having been rounded up in the previous months, and murdered 230 priests and more than 1,000 other prisoners. That same month, the monarchy was dissolved. In January, the 39-year-old Louis XVI, bookish, earnest, regal, out of his depth, had his head removed from his body, and the revolution was well and truly consummated.
Wow.